tonight. All right, so we have more honors to present tonight, so please welcome ABC News anchor. I have to say ABC now. They moved the letters around, or at least he did.
Yeah.
And Chief National Correspondent and my friend Byron Pitts.
Before we welcome him up, I want him to tell this story. My very first NABJ, and maybe he'll share, was when in Milwaukee. He gave a speech that left the room in tears. There was not one dry eye in the house. This man is the most humble,
Amen,
grateful person you will ever meet. And I want everyone to stand up for him because he is an amazing example of what we should and want to be when it comes to journalism.
Right.
Byron Pitts, everyone.
Byron Pitts.
You see her, right?
Where is he? We're like, he is here, right?
Thank you so much. Good evening, NABJ. It is my honor to introduce our Journalist of the Year 2013. Many of you may know him just as that brother with the ascot and the attitude. And he is that. But there is so much more to Roland Martin, a proud son of Texas, a seasoned journalist, an African-American man who had the courage of his convictions and the confidence in his skills to shape his own path in an industry that has not often been kind to men who look like him, act like him, see the world as he sees it. Roland is carving a path many of us can follow, from Washington Watch with Roland Martin, appearances on the Tom and Joyner Morning Show, his work on CNN, and he is a prolific beast on Twitter. Black folk know him, have confidence that he puts truth to power on their behalf. I witnessed Roland's reach at the second inauguration of President Obama in Washington. There we stood on the steps of the Capitol, Roland and I, about an hour before the president was sworn into office. Two old scribes, catching up, shooting the breeze. A black family walked over to us, 6 people, 3 generations. Nervously, the eldest woman in the group approached me and asked, "Are you that guy on network TV?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Would you take a picture with us together, please?" "Yes, ma'am, I'd be honored." As I straightened my collar and gave her my best network TV smile and stood ready to pose, but her smile disappeared. "Oh, no, son, we don't want to take a picture with you. We want to take a picture with Roland Martin. We love Roland Martin." I, too, love Roland Martin. Not simply because of his gifts as a journalist and an entrepreneur. I appreciate him because, at his core, Roland is one of those good brothers from around the way. That brother, when trouble knocks at your door, you can expect a visit or a call from Roland, offering support, humor, a word of prayer, and the brother can pray. We've prayed together more than a few times. Roland knows who he is, and most importantly, he knows whose he is. In a year of accolades for Roland Martin, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity's general president issued a proclamation honoring Roland for tonight's awards. Ladies and gentlemen, NABJ's Journalist of the Year 2013, Mr. Roland Martin.
Roland Martin is a tenacious truth seeker.
Roland is non-traditional.
Roland Martin is courageous.
I believe the commitment that Mr. Martin has had all these years to keep the American community and necessarily the global community informed about what goes on in this country in relationship to African Americans and peoples in need of a voice has been very well placed.
For the past 2 years, attacks on voters' rights led by Republicans at the state level have made it clear to most Americans how easy it can be to disenfranchise people but they're not paying attention.
He was all over the place, covering all the main issues in 2012. He has been the voice, raising the issues, having opinions, being controversial, getting into trouble, but all the while saying things that a lot of folks were saying at home.
You can always count on Roland to ask the tough but smart question. He fears no one and nothing.
So this particular case that's going forward, there's a challenge to Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which gives the federal government oversight. And I'm going to call out all these crazy fools out here who continue to say, oh, this happened because we don't have prayer in school, because we want to take the Christmas.
He gave credibility to black media, to African-owned media, in a period in which everybody wanted to be general market.
The problem is we have it's a number of factors that deals with mental illness, that yes, deals with video games.
I admire his spirit of not being denied. Roland is the most relentless journalist I've ever met in my life. He's someone who doesn't wait around for an opportunity.
Other agenda items, but I'm sorry. There could be more than one thing on the table other than fiscal cliff, other than immigration.
Roland's approach to journalism is that he holds everybody accountable. Roland's not afraid to tell the Democrats where they're wrong. He's not afraid to tell the Republicans where they're wrong. He's not afraid to challenge white people. He's certainly not afraid to challenge his own community as well.
And Real Housewives of Atlanta came on. It was the same thing. It was just yelling and cussing and screaming just over stupid stuff. And it has to be embarrassing to black women.
I think that anybody that gets into that space and can reveal the truth about what's going on becomes an important player.
NABJ, how you doing? Before I make my remarks, let me first and foremost give absolute praise and credit to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Two things I've often said I am an unapologetic black man, I'm an unapologetic Christian. And when you think about the things that we go through and the difficult times that we have and had to deal with, there's no way in the world I've been able to deal with that without having a strong faith and a strong God. Next, because I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and we have great respect. We have great respect, and let me also say, the late Ted Holtzclaw, also an Alpha man. One of the things that we often do whenever we have our fraternity gatherings, we always give credit to our founding members, the Seven Jewels. And I've often said that whenever NABJ has a gathering, NABJ should never ever have a program where we do not recognize the people who made it possible for us to sit in this hotel, for us to be able to have a convention. And so NABJ, you should right now give praise, and if they are here, if any NABJ founder is here, please rise to get your applause. There are a number of special folks who are here, and I certainly appreciate them being here. And first and foremost, I want to recognize two folks who made it possible for me to be here, for them to hook up and make a little love in 1967. And that's my parents. The reason it was important for them to be here, because in 1989, I went to the NABJ convention in Little Rock and decided that I wanted to go to our national convention. And in addition to just simply running for national student rep, to be at that convention. And at the time, my dad was considering changing jobs. He worked at Amtrak. And I went to my mom and I said, the importance of me coming to this convention. And she said, well, you need to talk to your dad because he may very well leave this job. And when I talked to him, he said, how important is it? And I said then, sitting at our kitchen dining table, that me going to this convention could have the most dramatic impact on my life and my career. And I was able to come to New York in 1989 because he worked for Amtrak, and I can ride the train for 2 days for free. Came to New York with $75, which is why I tell every student in here, you gotta learn how to eat at every reception for free. And it was at that convention that my NABJ journey began, and nearly every job that I've had in my career has been a result of the relationships that I established through this organization. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to give praise to my parents, Reginald and Imelda Martin, who are here as well. Also, my wife Jackie here, Reverend Jackie Hood Martin. Many of you saw her host a panel with Bishop T.D. Jakes and Mary D. In the authors panel. I certainly appreciate her because she lets me do me. When we come to our events, a lot of folks, where you're going, what you're doing, her whole deal is, handle your business, I'll see you later. I certainly thank her for her prayers. I thank her for her support. So also shout out to my wife Jackie. When you saw the video, one of the folks who was in the video, and she probably will be blushing because she's a bit shy and is like, I can't believe he's about to do this. But I want to shout out Josanne Lopez. When I was at CNN, there was no bigger supporter of mine when I was at CNN. Somebody who went into meetings fighting on my behalf, fighting other folks who had their own interpretations of this brother. And there's no doubt in my mind when you begin to talk about an individual who should be a vice president, an executive vice president, somebody who is running a network, who knows talent, who knows this business, and that's her. And I would say to any media company in here, if you're looking for somebody who could run your show who's a bad sister, you should be calling her Josanne Lopez. That's the kind of folks we need running companies. So Josanne, you're back there. Stand up and give Josanne some applause, please. TV One has played an important role in my career and my life. The reason I'm receiving this award is because of TV One's Washington Watch, and the person who gave me my first shot there is Jonathan Rogers. Jonathan and I met. He's a former NABJ board member. We met when we were on the board in 1989. Jonathan was in the video as well. He is now retired. We play golf. He doesn't play golf well, but I'm helping him with his game. But I want to give a shout out to Nikki Weber-Allen, who is our Vice President of Talent and Casting there. She's here as well representing the network. So Nikki, thank you so very much. And y'all can blame Nikki. I've been in NABJ 24 years. I've only missed 3 conventions. I missed last year in New Orleans because she got married on Saturday. And I said, I will be at your wedding, Nikki, so blame her. So Nikki, thanks for coming out. I also must thank an important group, and that is, I told you I have my mother and my father here, but I've been in this organization 24 years. And I've had the pleasure of having a bunch of folks who call themselves my NABJ mamas and daddies. Now, I was one of those NABJ babies, and these are the folks who took you under their wing and who scolded you and gave you advice and counsel. And the reason I want to thank you, because one of the reasons this organization is so important is because when you have members who are veterans, who understand the importance of affirming the next generation, who understand the importance of speaking positive views into their lives and giving us the confidence when folks who we work for don't have the same level of confidence in us. And when I would come to NABJ, and one person I wish was here was Vernon Jarrett, one of our founders, every time I saw Vernon, Vernon would give me a hug and give me a kiss on the cheek, and he would say, "My hero." And Vernon was the kind of brother who always would speak that affirmative voice into your life because he understood what it meant and what we were also going through. And so when you see our veterans and the need for them of touching and helping the next generation, it is because of their words, it is because of their prayers, it is because of their advice that I can stand here as Journalist of the Year because of what they did for the last 24 years. And I thank you. And one of the folks I have to thank, and when I talk about that, is when I was at the Poynter Institute in December of 1991 on a fellowship there, November 1991, when you talk about why it matters to touch the next generation coming up. And I appreciate that he is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award because when we sat in that hotel in Tampa, Greg Moore sat there and made it clear, and he said, "Never, ever not do you." And there were people who were saying, change your style and change your focus and change your vision, but Greg said absolutely not. And so I appreciate the fact that Greg said that, and I appreciate the fact that Vanessa Williams said it, and Sheila Brooks said it, and so many others said it. So Greg, thank you so very much for being one of those brothers. And let me say this here, why this matters. Because the one story that took my career to a whole nother level was when I broke the Michael Irvin drug story, and I had one source. And I was a 25-year-old news director of a radio station, and I called NABJ members, and I was scared to death saying, because if I get this wrong, it's a problem. And Greg was at the Boston Globe at the time, and I called the Globe, and I said, I need to speak to Greg Moore, and they said, he's in the meeting. I said, I need you to get Greg out the meeting, because I got to talk to him now. And I called, and Greg came on the phone like, Roland, what's up? I said, Greg, I've locked it. I'm running with this story. And Greg said, if you have it, you know it's sure, you run forward. And I won a number of awards off of that particular story. And it also changed the path. And so I appreciate the fact that Greg got out of that meeting and took the phone call and told the Boston Globe staff to hold up, I'll be back. So Greg, I appreciate that. Congratulations on your award tonight. There is a particular word for us in terms of this award because this award represents for me freedom. And the reason I say freedom is because so many of us wish we get the opportunity to host our own show. So many of us wish we get the opportunity to be able to make a difference. And we work at certain places where we know we have the skills, where we know we have the talent, but there's somebody else in a position of power who decides, no, I don't think you can do it. And the reason I appreciate what Jonathan Rogers did is because, and what TV One is doing is because they said, not only do we think you have the skill set and the talent, we are going to create the opportunity for you to do it. And I say freedom because a lot of us get consumed with the largest of the company on our business card without realizing they are providing us limited opportunities. And there were people who were saying, well, Roland, I hear you, but you working at CNN, what's this TV One thing? But first of all, TV One paid me before CNN did. TV One said, we're going to give you a weekend show. And in September, we're going to roll out a nationally syndicated radio show and television show on Radio One and TV One. And the reason I say you can't ignore what you think is something small, because that's where somebody is saying we're going to give you the shot. And when we're sitting here talking about getting the shot, when I sat there in the White House in an off-the-record conversation with the President of the United States, he was talking to Sunday morning talk show hosts, and that was David Gregory of NBC, and that was Stephanopoulos of ABC, and that was Candy Crowley of CNN and Chris Wallace of Fox. And there was Bob Schieffer of CBS. And sitting next to them was Roland Martin of TV One. You can't make a difference if you're not in the room. And you might think the only way you can get in the room is through larger organizations with 3 letters, but I'm trying to tell you there are other ways to get in the room, and that is through networks like TV One and other opportunities. So you must begin to think differently, and that is, maybe I got to go somewhere else for my shot. Maybe I've got to accept what I might think is a smaller opportunity, but when you accept something that's a smaller opportunity, you realize God is saying, no, baby, it's much bigger than you think it is. And so there might be a journalist sitting in this room. You've been waiting to be an executive producer. You've been waiting to be an executive editor. You've been waiting for an opportunity to run your own show. And where you are now, they might not give you your shot. And so I'm saying consider something else that it might look smaller, but then you're the boss. But then you're calling the shots. Then you're deciding who goes on the front page. Then you're deciding who you cover. Then you're deciding who you hire. And then if you accept that, you might realize that while I thought something was bigger and better, this opportunity provides me more substance, provides me more quality, and provides me the opportunity to truly use the skills that God gave me and the purpose I was put on here for. And I think when we begin to change our view of that, we will recognize that we can run the show. And I've been saying, and I will not stop being a fierce advocate for diversity and demand we need to have African Americans hosting primetime shows on cable networks. We need African Americans not as news readers on morning shows, but as co-hosts. We need African Americans not simply being associate producers, but EPs. We have to continue to do what our founders did, and that is demand our place at the table and have the courage and the willingness to stand up in our newsrooms. Because one of the reasons I fight so hard is because when a young person comes up to me and says, I appreciate you, I got to make sure they will have an opportunity when their time comes. And if there's anything that we have to do, every single one of us should accept the admonition of the Tuskegee Airmen, who said, to the hour, to the minute, to the second, we will fight, we will fight, we will fight. And when I wake up tomorrow morning, God willing, and when I think about every new opportunity, and I think about the other opportunities that are coming, all I think about is not, woe is me, or I didn't get the opportunity. What I think about is that freedom song we heard in the Civil Rights Movement when they said, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. It is time for us to operate as free black men and black women. It's time for us to operate where we begin to say, I may not get the shot here, but I might get it somewhere else. And if you do, you use it, you be the best that you can be, and you accept the responsibility of touching the next generation, because trust me, there will be the next generation, and they will thank you for doing it. So I thank you for doing it, and I say, you fight, you fight, you fight.